All right, question number one. Why are you running for office?
I'm running for office to continue delivering for the Central Coast, to address the many priorities and challenges that the Central Coast faces, and to be able to bring about solutions that address the lives of all residents here on the Central Coast, that improves their quality of life and that continues to lift them up so that they could all live the American dream.
What are some of your greatest accomplishments?
Well, the greatest accomplishments to date for myself is, one, providing great customer service and constituent service to everybody who approaches my office for one issue or another. I'm also proud of many legislative priorities that I have been able to move forward. The American Rescue Plan, which helped so many individuals, businesses, and institutions survive through this pandemic and stay afloat. I'm also proud of the bipartisan infrastructure law that invested much resources in our infrastructure and thereby providing many jobs. And what I mean by infrastructure, it's broadband, roads, bridges, waterworks, addressing our waterworks in a way that addresses our water supply, our drought, fire prevention. All of those issues were part of the bipartisan infrastructure law. Also, I'm proud to have brought $18 million to the district in the form of 9 projects that assisted veterans, our healthcare services in a clinic, our parks, and improve the public safety infrastructure in our communities.
What do you believe the community needs most right now?
What our community needs most right now is the stabilization of much of the costs that they are experiencing for gas, for food, for housing, for healthcare, for formula, for healthcare premiums, childcare. That is what our community needs right now. And I've been working on those challenges and priorities and in moving legislation forward that brings solutions to those everyday challenges that every family, every individual in our country and the Central Coast is currently experiencing.
What do you most want voters to know about you? And if elected, what are some of your projects you plan to tackle?
What I want voters to know is that I have been fighting hard for them in Washington and will continue to do so. I have an open door policy. Everybody could contact me, and I am going to be focusing my work to continue to bring solutions to address the many challenges and priorities that the Central Coast is facing. I am a representative who has been able to deliver for the Central Coast.
How do you plan to help the community recover from the pandemic?
Well, I have already voted for legislation that brought over $4 billion to the Central Coast to address this pandemic, to help schools, to help make sure we have vaccines and tests, to make sure that our businesses and our restaurants stay afloat, that employees were not able to stay working had the resources to provide for their families. I'm going to continue fighting to make sure that the resources continue to flow to our communities and make sure that we continue to invest in providing economic opportunities during this time where everybody's facing so many increased costs for basic elements, gas, food, childcare, healthcare.
What is your goal for nuclear energy, drought, oil drilling, rising house prices, and homelessness?
Well, we have a real challenge in our world and on the Central Coast, addressing climate change. And the best way to address climate change is to make sure that we are making investments in renewable energy. That's why I have been working on creating business tax credits to incentivize investments in renewable energy. I've been working to bring offshore wind energy off the coast of the Central Coast. And those are the types of things that will address climate change and take us from fossil fuels to renewable energy in a transition that I think is extremely important. In terms of housing prices, I will continue to fight to make sure that we are bringing the resources to partner with state and local governments to bring about multiple and diverse housing options to address homelessness and working middle-class families who day in and day out need to have access to good, stable, quality of life housing for their families.
And finally, Mr. Carbajal, anything further you would like to share?
Yes, I am proud to have been able to deliver not only $4 billion through the American Rescue Plan for our community, but over $1 trillion through the bipartisan infrastructure law, and over $18 million in projects for the Central Coast to improve the quality of life of residents, whether it's healthcare, for veterans, for parks, for our public safety and our first responders. I'm very proud to have done that, and I want to be able to continue that work in Washington. And I respectfully ask for the Central Coast for their vote to go back to Washington and fight for our values here on the Central Coast and our priorities and to address the challenges.